She stood alone at the Marine Corps graduation, a frail-looking woman in a faded dress that nobody noticed. When the young Marine tried to help her to accessible seating, she politely refused. "I've stood in worse heat, son," she said quietly. Her 65-year-old frame seemed delicate, but her eyes told a different story. They were sharp, calculating, seeing everything. When the base commander spotted a faded tattoo on her arm, a symbol from a unit that officially never existed, he froze in disbelief. This grandmother had secrets buried deeper than any classified file. What happened next left everyone speechless. The commanding officer of Paris Island snapped to attention and gave her a salute so crisp it could cut glass. Who was this mysterious woman, and what had she done to earn such respect from one of the most powerful men in the Marine Corps? USX Stories. Please subscribe for more tales of hidden heroes. At the sweltering Marine Corps graduation ceremony on Paris Island, 65-year-old Margaret Hayes stood motionless in the blazing South Carolina sun, a solitary figure amid the chaos of celebrating families. Corporal James Mitchell, barely 20 years old and earnest in his dress blues, approached her with concern. "Ma'am, the accessible seating is to your left. Much better shade and a clearer view," he offered, seeing what appeared to be a fragile grandmother in a simple floral dress, her silver hair pinned neatly. But when Margaret's pale blue eyes met his, they weren't the cloudy eyes of age. They were razor-sharp and assessing, making him instinctively straighten his posture. "Thank you, Corporal. I'm quite all right here," she replied, her voice quiet but carrying an unmistakable firmness that ended the conversation. "I've stood for longer in worse heat, son." Mitchell tried again, appealing to family pride. "Which company is your grandson in, ma'am? I can point out where they'll be standing." Without hesitation, she answered with military precision. "Platoon 2047, India Company, 2nd Battalion. My grandson is Private Daniel Hayes. He's a guide and bearer, 3rd Squad." Mitchell was impressed. Most families barely knew the company name, let alone such specific details. As the ceremony progressed with flawless Marine Corps precision, Margaret remained perfectly still while families around her wept, cheered, and collapsed from emotion and heat. Her breathing was even, her posture impeccable, not just straight, but aligned with the precision of someone who'd spent thousands of hours on drill squares. She had indeed stood in worse conditions. In the frozen mountains of Korea waiting for extractions that never came on time, in suffocating jungles that didn't exist on any official map, listening for sounds that meant life or death. Colonel Benjamin Cross, the commanding officer of the recruit depot, descended from the reviewing stand after the ceremony to walk among families. That's when he saw her, an island of calm in the churning crowd. Something about her military-perfect posture stopped him cold. Then his eyes caught it. As she shifted her weight, her short-sleeved dress revealed a small, faded tattoo on her right forearm, a stylized spearhead bisected by a jagged lightning bolt. Colonel Cross felt his breath catch. He'd seen that symbol only twice before, once in a classified file detailing a unit so secret it had only a numerical designation, and once in the hand of his mentor, a legendary sergeant major who spoke in hushed tones about the OSS ghosts who wrote the rules everyone else followed. The symbol was the mark of the Office of Strategic Services, specifically from an ultra-secretive unit that operated behind enemy lines, a unit that officially never included women. Cross approached slowly, reverently, his voice barely a whisper. "Ma'am, pardon me, that marking on your arm, I have to ask." Margaret glanced down as if noticing it for the first time in decades. "It's old," she said simply. The colonel leaned in, speaking a ghost code from a forgotten war. Fairburn Sykes' presentation grip. "What's the proper response to the shadow of the moon is long?" Margaret's placid expression broke into a knowing smile that erased years from her face, revealing the formidable warrior she'd been. "But the night is short for those who wait," she whispered back, her eyes glinting. "And we never waited, did we, Colonel?" Without conscious thought, Colonel Cross brought his heels together and delivered a salute so sharp and precise it could cut glass. Not a perfunctory gesture, but the deep instinctual respect a warrior gives to a legend. Corporal Mitchell, still watching from a distance, stood with his jaw hanging open as the base commander saluted this elderly woman as if she were the commandant himself. "At ease, Colonel," Margaret said, the unmistakable authority of command in her quiet voice. Just then, Private Daniel Hayes pushed through the crowd, his face beaming. "Grandma, you made it!" He froze when he saw his grandmother face to face with the base commander, who was holding a rigid salute. Colonel Cross slowly lowered his hand and turned to the stunned private. "Do you have any idea who this woman is, Private Hayes?" Daniel looked confused. "Sir, this is my grandmother, Margaret." The colonel shook his head in wonder. "Private, this woman and a handful like her wrote the book that men like me have been trying to read for 75 years. He gestured to the faded tattoo. "OSS, ma'am?" Margaret nodded simply. "Operational Group, Burma, behind Japanese lines." The words hung in the air like bombshells. Operational Groups were the commandos of the OSS, the ruthless predecessors to the Green Berets who specialized in unconventional warfare deep in enemy territory. And this quiet grandmother had been one of them. Daniel stared at the woman who'd raised him after his parents died, who made him cookies and helped with homework, who smelled of lavender and old books. He looked at her hands, really looked, and saw the scars, the strong knuckles, the way she never fidgeted, always perfectly balanced. Everything clicked into place. His grandmother wasn't just a grandmother. She was a giant hiding in plain sight. Colonel Cross addressed Daniel with profound gravity. "Your drill instructors taught you about courage, honor, and sacrifice. They gave you the tools." He gestured respectfully toward Margaret. "She is the reason those words have meaning. She lived them when there were no parades, no recognition, only the mission and the person beside her. It is a profound honor to have you on my depot, ma'am." He bowed his head respectfully and walked away, leaving the family to their reunion. Daniel stood in stunned silence, feeling a wave of humility that nearly buckled his knees. He'd just survived 13 brutal weeks and felt like a titan. Now he felt like a child. "Grandma, you never said anything." Margaret gently adjusted his uniform collar, her touch both familiar and newly weighted with meaning. There was nothing to say, Daniel. The work was the reward. Coming home was the victory. What you did here, what you've sworn to do, that matters now. Your story. I'm just here to see the next chapter begin. The fierce warrior receded, leaving the loving grandmother he'd always known, but he could never unsee what he now understood. Beneath the floral dress and silver hair was pure, tempered steel. Daniel's posture straightened, not from training, but from an overwhelming need to be worthy of the blood in his veins. He wrapped his arms around his grandmother, his new marine frame enveloping her small one. Breathing in the familiar lavender now mingled with the imaginary scent of history and gunpowder. The crowd celebrated around them, but for this Marine and his quiet grandmother, the world had just revealed a truth more honorable than any parade. True heroism doesn't demand recognition or glory. The greatest warriors often walk among us in silence, their sacrifices hidden, their stories untold. Honor and duty aren't performed for applause. They're lived in the shadows where no one watches. The real legacy we leave isn't in medals or monuments, but in the values we pass to the next generation and the quiet strength we carry with dignity. If you enjoyed this story from USX Stories, please subscribe for more tales of hidden heroes, untold courage, and the extraordinary people who shaped history from the shadows. Hit that subscribe button to never miss a story that will inspire and move you